Hey, founders. Hello, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon. No, it's still morning for everyone, I believe. I am going to go ahead and get started for our recording. I see we only have a couple founders, but that's okay because I'm going to get started for our recording and then share this out with everyone so you have it. And then also hopefully more health tech and other founders pop in as we go. So hi to the folks that are here. Always good to see you. Sorry, it was a creepy sound. Always good to see you guys. All right, so let's talk about today's Q4 portfolio AMA. Feel free again to introduce yourselves in the chat. But I do know time is precious, so I'll just get right into it. I'm going to share with you guys. Have the amazing Christina share in the chat your portfolio company guide again. Again, bookmark this so that you can always refer to it and have it. It's also, I think, posted in our general Slack channel. So first up, a couple of reminders is that we're ending out the quarter. So next month, so after the new year, we'll be sending out new forms for you guys to do the quarterly updates for Q4. Also a reminder that if you have any questions, portfolio@chloecapital.com, you can email us there or reach out via our Slack channel that you guys are on. We'll try to respond as quickly as possible. Continue to respond to the request. So we have been doing company spotlights. Please go ahead and continue to respond to those requests because we post you guys on LinkedIn and just amplify your businesses and everything. Okay. Okay, so let me talk about something that's really, really, really important that we just recently learned. So as a reminder, as I mentioned, the quarterly reporting, it's coming up. And we need timely and accurate submissions. So a lot of the things that we use it for is to really help for us to advocate for you guys, to introduce you to other investors and things like that, and making sure that we stay on top of your progress. However, what is also more so important is that we use these updates to do our audits. So we as a firm, we are required to do an annual audit. That audit is due within the first quarter of the new year for the previous year. So within the next couple of months, our audit is going to be due for 2024. What is going to happen, or what could potentially happen, is we by law binding have to do these audits from our LPs, and our LPs are in a position to take legal action against us if we are unable to obtain the information that we need to complete the audits. And what is that information? That information is what's going on with you guys, our portfolio companies. So any communications that we send to you all requesting information and updates, please, light a fire under your butts and turn that information in, because we need that information to complete our audits. Again, we can face legal actions, which of course will trickle down to you guys, unfortunately, in the support that we can give you if that's something that has to happen. So anyway, that is the most important thing that I want to share with you all. Besides that, today is a little different. So we implemented some of the requests that you guys had. We've heard from you. And so what we're going to do is we're doing a two-parter. So we're going to spend the next 20 minutes, 25 minutes answering any questions that you guys have, or identifying one team that we will help you guys brainstorm, the few of us on the call, on helping to solve that problem. And then we're going to switch over to doing our roundtable for our healthcare founders, or any founders that want to sell into the healthcare market. So that's what it's going to be about for this session. And then our next AMA is going to be like March of next year for the next quarter. All right. So if there are no questions, I'm going to see if anyone that's on can pop on so you can show your faces, and then we can kick off by asking questions. Let me see if I can have it work and show everybody. Okay. All right. So now I can see more people. This is a few guys. Okay. So I see a couple folks on the call. Does anyone have any questions about, first and foremost, some of the things I just mentioned about when quarterly reports are due, about accessing any of the services we have? The other thing I did want to mention is we have added a lot more community mentors to our community mentor pool. So let me pull up that, because we're getting some really, really expert level folks who are really excited about providing our portfolio help. And you just have to reach out. So I'm going to pull up that again so that you guys can kind of remember. And the important thing to note is that we have the mentors indicate their areas of expertise. So you would be able to go in and see, hey, I'm looking for someone to help me in marketing. I'm looking for someone to help me sales strategy, whatever, investor introductions, like insert something here. And then you'll be able to actually see. Yeah, we have some really great folks. We have someone else that recently added was someone who's on our actually Chloe Capital board, and will help with SaaS, fractional CTO, can help with AI, data consulting, things like that. We have folks that can help with legal. Here, I'm just going to share the list with you guys again. And then I'm gonna pop that in the chat. So probably get to, oh, that looks so big. Probably get to bookmark that as well. As another first line of defense is, let me just check to see who's out there that I can contact. All right, and with that, any questions we want to kick it off with? Anyone have any questions about anything I said? Or if you don't have any questions, does anyone have a problem, a budding problem that we can all kind of peer network together and help?
Miko, I have a question. Good morning. since I know my team is always on time, I'm trying to do the best everything on time, because obviously you all provided funding so we can stay in business. So the question is there a way, me as the leader, to know that my team has done it? Because we're running in 20,000 directions. So it was done. Is there a portal or a place or something that I know as the leader that was done?
Oh, I love that question. So right now it currently emails the person who submitted.
Mhm.
So what I can do is we can look in, we'll try to put a note. I can see if it can also email like a second person. So like if you're not the one who submits it, I can see if your email also can be added as someone to get notified that it's submitted. So we can look into that with that.
Um,
So
Right. Because as you imagine, many of us have received funding from different portals, and we literally, as we have 16 portals, we have to keep up. So it is a lot of work, but we keep it up. But again, and we have a monthly report to make sure that we are on time. But I, as the leader, don't want to be not on time, because I know the sacrifice you guys made to bring us money. So I want to make sure that we get back to you so you can keep going for more money out there to the world. So, but is there a way we can see and walk in, or in the portals, or you have a Chloe site that has maybe you might create a score or a thing that says on time, or something? Might be that.
So that's really interesting. And then I'll write that down because I think I understand what you're saying. You're not saying that someone else on the team is submitting it. You're just saying that you need to have a place like a dashboard, so to speak, where you can go and see, I done that for Chloe or whatever is being
Mhm.
done.
Right.
And
We
yeah,
do that like the retailers. I deal with retailers. They have in the portal. You submitted your RFPs on time, and so you see. Okay, done. I can move on. Hey, team, why didn't you do this? Versus because even if it's two people or three or five, it's still with so much going on, we lose track of things.
no, I love that. It's actually, so it's really interesting because that's something that we've been researching platforms
Mm,
for us to do that for our accelerators. But now what I'm hearing from you is it sounds like it could be really beneficial for you guys as portfolio companies too. So Emilia, our operating partner and our software developer, I'll talk to her about it too, because again, we've been just thinking like in terms of something like that for the accelerators, but it sounds like it can be really beneficial for the portfolio companies. And
mhm.
I understand, I already can kind of envision what it is that you
Right.
are out or needing. Um, so yeah, absolutely. I'll
Okay.
definitely.
Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
Oh, and Sharon, tell me about your experience with Asana because I used Asana years ago, but it's been like 10 years, so I don't remember what. You're muted.
Sorry. Yep. So we're working with a couple external companies on some projects, and I don't have an Asana account that I pay for, but they can assign me, add me to their thing, and then I get my own personal Asana board, and it's very, very easy for me to see what is due by when, tick it off. And that being said, I don't know how they are able to invite external people to it, but there is some kind of integration that allows it to happen without me having an account. And I'm doing that with two or three people right now. And so I get my own dashboard for each partner and my list of tasks, and it becomes really easy. Yeah.
All right. So, okay, I added that to look into Asana. Yeah, it's been so many years since I used it, so I haven't even thought about it, but thank you so much. That could be one. Uh, But but you also, I'm assuming, would find it helpful to be able to know like when you submitted things to Chloe and all of that
Yeah.
stuff? You
Yeah.
would add.
I know I have some things that I have not done for you, but it's very difficult to go back through emails. And in theory, I should be using my Teams and my software to do it, but just the simple act of adding it to a list sometimes escapes me, and I apologize. I should probably be better organized, but I don't think I'm unique in that. Yeah. So if
No,
somebody tells me when it's due and like in a format where I'm always on there and checking, or I have developed the habit of opening Asana and having it up and checking what's due, and it
right.
sends me emails as well, then I can, yeah.
Yeah, and also the quarterly reports, they can be submitted by anyone on your team that knows the information, right? So
Yeah.
if you're the founder, if it's, some
Okay.
else, it could be, financial person
Okay, cool.
who knows the information.
Yeah. I will say we had used Notion with one of the accelerators that we were on. And for me, it wasn't as intuitive as Asana, but I mean, Notion is out there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so good to know your feedback on Notion. It was something that we have been looking into implementing as well. And also I feel like we didn't find it as intuitive. But yeah, I will, this is very helpful because as I mentioned, we have been looking at it for our accelerators. So now it seems like portfolio can utilize it too. Anybody else have any other thoughts on that or have any other questions or issues that they want to present to the group in the next, say, 15-ish minutes? I'm just talking to all faces. Everyone's so quiet. No problem is too big or too small for the next 15 minutes for us to discuss. I'll mention again, one of the other important things I mentioned earlier, since we have a couple of new people on, is that Holy Capital were required by law to do an audit every year, so an annual audit, and that audit is due by the end of Q1 for the previous year. So within the next couple of months, kicking off actually after the new year, we'll be working on our audit. Sometimes oftentimes, the auditor will request information that we need to get from the founders, and we have to get this information. And so if you receive any requests for information from us that we're mentioning is for the audit, please respond very timely. We also can, be liable and could actions against us by our limited partners if we not have the audits complete in time, and if we aren't able to obtain information from you guys as founders.
Thanks. So we get that request from our other VC partners as well. Do you know the name of the audit firm? Because sometimes the email comes through or gets lodged in spam, and the audit firm reaches out to us independently, and we always have to find it and go back to someone in the VC partner and say, hey, are these people your auditors really? So if there's, because often it comes through with an attachment or a link that they want you to go. So if there's a heads up from you on the audit firm and who might be reaching out, that's helpful for us.
Okay, amazing. I didn't know.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
security practice is to go. But okay, that's perfect. So what we'll do is after the new year, we can send everyone a heads up of this is the audit firm that Holy Capital is using. This is who you may get requests from.
Yeah.
I love that.
At least I think at least for some of like our lead investor, it seems that they can't ask you to make the introduction because that might be not independent. So they tend to reach out independently. And we've had that happen for 2 years now where we completely ignored the email or it went to spam. And then somebody had to reach back out to us and we were like, well, we don't know you from George. Why would we give you our financial information just because you are who you say you are? Yeah.
Right. That's a very good point. That's not even something that, okay, I'm gonna make sure I make a note of that too. And then we'll put something in there like bookmark, um, bookmark the early thing.
Monica, we can't hear you.
Oh,
There it goes. It's better now. Your audio kind of cut out for a minute.
thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was just saying, after the new year, we'll send you guys a heads up with the auditor's name, excuse me, and email that you should only be getting requests from so that you can save it to contacts and it don't go to spam or anything like that. Okay. And then I got another question in the chat here about examples of how details the financials should be. So I'm not sure if you're referring to like for the audit or for just the quarterly reports, if you wanted to clarify the difference. Oh, for the quarterly reports. Yep. So I can formats I can send you. I'll put a note that I can send you some format examples. I want to say I think you guys are usually fine. But it's just for the quarter. So when we're looking at, the way that the quarterly form is broken down is it has where you can enter. So it'll actually, like how much raised and employees and stuff like that. So you can just kind of enter the numbers in, and that's really, really helpful. If it's something that's not adding up, then we may have you upload like your balance sheet or something, which if you're using I don't know, for example, QuickBooks, and you can just kind of run a report or something from the report, from that quarter. And then it would be formatted in the traditional way that QuickBooks formats, and we'll be able to read it. But if you want some more guidance, then I'll definitely have your team lead do a sit down with you for the formatting of your financials. But I will put a note of that in here too.
Good morning, Namiko. How are you? This is Ed.
Hi, Ed. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for all your help, and I appreciate the color on the financials and the reporting. We should be sending out our quarterly financial report or company update to you probably by the end of this week, so you'll have that. Financials, our CPA produces that, so whenever you need it, we can provide that on time, but we've been pretty slow about getting our quarterly reports out, but now we have a process and a template, so you should be seeing those pretty regularly.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask about raising capital, if any assistance you guys can provide with in terms of distribution. We're working on our Series A now, coming into the first quarter of 2025, really targeting family offices and strategic investors. But I just wanted to see if there's any type of information we should send to you, any help in terms of distribution that you can help with, that you might want to let me know about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you probably more than the question is asking. So the first thing is, so yes, you guys know, at least I hope you know, because we get a lot of founders who send requests, is we will make introductions to any investors, right? So we have founders that will send us, you know, a list of 3-4 investors or whatever that they've either identified, VC firms or anything. And so we will make introductions, right, to any investors. So please send over that list. You can send it over to your team lead, which is the easiest person who the quickest will be able to make those introductions for you, for helping you with your raise. The second thing is that I'll transition and talking a little bit about Chloe Capital and our raise, so we can start having some more money for folks. So we next year will officially launch our kickoff for raising our fund 2. And the raise cycle, as you guys are all aware, is very, very slow. So it will be quite a while before we raise enough money to be able to start deploying again. But in the meantime, in between time, we are still doing things like, you know, making those investor introductions for you guys, connecting you with anyone who can also make introductions or who can be, you know, those investors. So one of the other things I did mention is the community mentors forum earlier. Some of those community mentors are also investors. They're angel investors and they have family offices. So that's one of the things that is another list where I heard this before. I don't know how, I used to love it. I don't know how I feel about it now. The saying was, if you want money, ask for advice. If you want advice, ask for money. I'm not sure how I feel about that after being in VC for several years, but the community mentors, as I mentioned, it is a lot of individuals on there who are angel investors or who have family offices. So also scour that list and, you know, reach out for folks. But I would probably say the first thing is you got a list of folks you want to like warm introductions to. Let us know so we can make those introductions for you. Does that help, Ed?
Yeah, so you want us to make a short list of people that we're targeting for introductions. Hopefully, pass it to you. You might know these people, and you can help us make the introduction.
Yeah, so we're gonna make the introduction regardless, but we try to find someone on the team that may have like a connection or something that will, you know, make it warmer, but we still gonna we'll try to get you in front of everybody. The other thing that we've done a lot of, and I want to make sure people know, is that referrals. So when you are talking to investors, sometimes they'll ask you for a referral of another, investor who invested in you. We are always open to that. We do a lot of those for our founders that request them or that put us down, and we sing your praises, of course, right? So don't forget about that as well while you're talking to investors. And it's even something you can offer. You can say, hey, if you feel comfortable in your due diligence and wanting to talk to any of our other investors, Chloe Capital is here to speak to any investors about you.
This list you mentioned, the Community Investor Forum list, is that something
Yeah, I'll
that
put
we
it.
can get access to?
Um,
You said there are also family offices in that list? Okay.
yeah, so I'll put it in the chat again here. It's an Airtable form that we use. Make sure I send it to everybody.
And one last thing, we created a white paper on disruption of tokenization for real estate, how real estate is being disrupted by tokenization. Can I send that to you? So maybe you might find appropriate people to send it out to that own real estate.
Absolutely. Put a note. Yeah, please do send it to us. White paper. Yeah, please do send it to us. And there was something else I might follow up. We recently got another request about real estate developers, and I don't know if it was connection to real estate developers or something, but I'll look into it because it could be some synergies between you and another founder there.
Okay.
And Ed, is that white paper appropriate to put up or to reshare on social? Because we're doing bi-weekly posts on LinkedIn where we're trying to aggregate, content information. I'll share this for anyone on this call. We're just going through LinkedIn for what our companies are posting and trying to reshare to help amplify. But if that's something that's maybe not on LinkedIn, but is separately that we can link out, would be happy to include that as one of those bi-weekly spotlights.
Yeah, well, we're not sharing it on social media, just
Okay.
because we don't want it to be broadly distributed. It's
Okay.
really to large real estate holders that are going to be affected by this technology. But I
Okay.
figured that, you might have investors or family office members that usually have about 30% of their holdings are in real estate. And so we should give it to them. We're basically trying to aggregate people in certain real estate verticals that we should focus on for our capital raise. So this report is a good lead in for that.
That's great to know. And we can keep that investor focused. So we do send out communications only to our investors and LPs. So good to know that, Ed, and we'll make sure that we keep that channel closed in terms of social.
Yeah.
But we do post a lot on social media, so I'm not sure if you're getting that communication that we're posting on social media. A lot of news, especially this year, is kicked in. Getting our license for the SEC was a big announcement. DCC assignment was also very large, 3.5 billion. So a lot of things we probably have not shared, and maybe I can have our marketing person connect with you just to make sure you have all of our updates.
That sounds great. And Ed, I'll send you over my email address as well for that.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, all right, making notes of that. Amazing. And so what I want to do at this time is I'm going to hand it over to Drew. Drew is one of our operating partners here at Chloe Capital, and he is also one of the lead team members for several of the portfolio companies. He has worked diligently to bring in a guest to help a founder who will be able to do a roundtable, so to speak, to help some of our founders. This is one of the things that have been requested by our founders. And so we're just trying to implement all that's on our roadmap. So from there, I'm going to turn it over to Drew. Hey, Drew.
Hey guys, thanks so much, Maidinko. And for those of you who haven't met me yet, I just joined Chloe this past June. My name is Drew McCusick, and as Maidinko mentioned, I'm one of the operating partners in the team. I come from a health tech, healthcare background. And I reconnected with Kristen recently. She actually and I went through the same PhD program at University of Washington a few years ago, and she's been doing some incredible things. A very talented and strong woman founder of a healthcare company now. She worked. I'll just do a brief intro on her, and then go a little bit into her company, and then I've got a couple kind of prompt questions we can kick off with, but I invite you guys who are in healthcare, health tech, digital health companies with us to please chime in. You can either put questions for her in the chat or just come off your mic. It's intended to be pretty informal and just to connect you with something that many of you have been asking for and looking for, which is the healthcare payer landscape and how that's shifting and how kind of difficult that has been to navigate as it changes. As I mentioned, Kristen, she did her PhD. She's also a serial entrepreneur. She founded a company called Profusa, which was a biosensor company, and then worked at Amazon Care. So she headed up their product development in the Amazon Care team. And then we'll let her get into this, but was started her self-health about 2 years ago as the founding CEO. This company is doing some really cool things. I'll just share my screen briefly here on their website, actually, just to give you a little bit of an orientation on them. So hopefully you can see my screen right now. And so the focus here of her company is they do in-person primary care clinics that focus on women's health services for women 65 and up. And so you can see here, the kinds of, there's a, missed it here. There was a part here that I wanted to focus on, just kind of what they treat. And so obviously a lot of this focuses on women as they're aging, and bringing a lot of awareness to some of the things that have kind of excluded women as patients from care models, and that goes everything from how the clinic looks to creating a comfortable environment where women can ask questions about their health that extend beyond the kind of normal box things like just having to do with like maternity or things that people often associate with women's health. So they have an incredible aesthetic with their clinics, just beautiful. I believe you're up to 5 clinics now launched, all in the Twin Cities area in Minnesota. I know that Chloe, a lot of us here in the portfolio companies are doing digital health, and these are really focused on in-person, face-to-face services. But obviously, as you all know, there's overlap between those types of services, and so please welcome Kristen, and I want to thank her so much for taking time out of her incredibly busy schedule to be here today. I'll just kick it off with a couple questions here, but I know I see several of our portcos on here who are in health tech, from Mailua and I think Nightingale. And then we are recording the session as well. So those who, I know there were a couple who said they couldn't make this exact time, but we'll send their recording to them as well. So once again, thanks, Kristen. And I guess the kickoff question I kind of would throw over to you is if you could just state what a little bit of background about her self-health, how you got the company started, and what the kind of stage and scale of the company is. I know, and I'll share in the link here to a really cool press release that just came out a couple months ago where Kristen has negotiated this values-based contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield in a Medicare Advantage context in Minnesota. But yeah, if you can just kick us off there with a little bit about your company. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Drew. And I'll apologize in advance. I caught a seasonal cold. 'Tis the time of year, so my voice is a little shaky, but really happy to be with all of you. As Drew mentioned, I've been kind of a serial entrepreneur, and my background has been in a lot of the product technology. When I was at Amazon, I joined thinking like, what should Amazon do? And as part of this like skunkworks team, I spent a lot of time looking at the healthcare space. And the reason I bring that up is because that is what gave me a lot of conviction about primary care and the direction that primary care was being pulled in a fee-for-service model, sort of the high volume, high throughput, and talking to a lot of providers about their experience. And over again, it was this feeling of not having enough time and a really limited tool set, which took me to really diving into value-based care. And that business model was more of a B2B model where we were selling to employers, and it was kind of a value-based like construct, not the same as you see in the Medicare Advantage space, but I felt very strongly that that was the direction, that being paid for value was the direction that healthcare needed to go. The whole Amazon Care founding that, building it, scaling it to 50 states virtual, 15 states in person is a whole nother story for another time. We don't have a ton of time today. But I'm actually very passionate about virtual care as well. I think there's so much interesting opportunity. One of the challenges at Amazon Care, though, was in selling to the big nationals. I'm betting some of you have this challenge, is you can't get fast forward enough to actually get some of those big national accounts. And so you're sort of torn between a local presence and starting in a few markets versus getting to all 50 states. And I'm sure you're probably looking for what we used to call unicorns, or those providers licensed in 25 plus states. But when I left Amazon and thought about what I wanted to do next, I really wanted to do women's health. I really wanted to be focused on value. And so I really, from my Amazon time, got very passionate about focusing on the patient and their wants and needs. And what came out loud and clear in our research of older women was that women over 65 feel completely unseen and unheard. And so I just felt like this was a really clear opportunity. I don't know if many of you are familiar with value-based care constructs like ChenMed and Oak Street, but the thesis for Her Self Health was we wanted to be part of this V2 of value-based care, where rather than one size fits all, we're going to really focus on women and their needs. And women are easier to engage, more proactive in their care. And so to be successful in these models, engagement is key. And we thought, let's build something beautiful. Let's make women feel like this is where this is built for them, where they want to come for their health care. And then say, in the first 2 years, our first clinic will have its 2-year anniversary in January. Is that loud and clear, this is a model that women want. And while our providers and a lot of the initial care is clinic-based, we do actually have a care team of care coordinators. We're hiring an LCSW, and we've got chart preppers, provider educators. We've got a whole team that is virtual, but we're optimizing for as much in-person patient to provider FaceTime, and really lifting the rest of the care team to be virtual. As Drew said, we have 5 clinics and we're Minnesota based. So I want this time to be helpful to you all. Happy to talk about some of my experience working with the payers and in this market specifically, or I can also refer to some of my past payer and large self-insured employer experience.
Awesome, thank you. If there's any questions from anyone yet, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Yeah, go ahead, Sharon.
Hi, Kristen. Thanks very much for volunteering your time and for sharing your experience. So I have two questions for you, but I know we have others on the call, so I'm happy to take it offline as well. The first question I have is, well, the first is I have two questions still, but two comments. One, I applaud you for making women over 65 the highlight of your focus, and also thinking about whole health for women. We find that health-focused efforts for women are so focused on the reproductive cycle,
Mhm.
the implications of the reproductive cycle. It's important to understand that certain conditions affect women disproportionately. And so we deal in those conditions. So we provide virtual respiratory care for people with asthma and COPD,
Mhm.
born out of my own experience with asthma, but also the statistics are quite clear. Twice as many women actually have asthma than men, and women can be diagnosed with adult onset asthma at the time of menopause. More women are now being diagnosed with COPD than men. So I feel like we're very aligned in our mission in terms of just giving voice to things that people don't normally think about. So first question, what we have found consistently with employers is that they do not understand that conditions like respiratory actually have a run-on impact in their diabetes cost as well as their hypertension cost, because the treatments for respiratory actually negatively impact those conditions. And we consistently hear from employers, well, we're focused on diabetes cardiology. We haven't heard about people doing respiratory, and we don't know if that's a thing.
Mhm.
We have volunteered to analyze their claims for them. We've done a bunch of things. The question is, how do you make it resonate with employers? Quite fundamentally, if you have a breathing problem, you're not really focused on the rest of stuff. And this is just as the data shows, this is just as prevalent
Yep.
as cardiology, more prevalent than diabetes.
Yep.
What has been your experience here?
So my experience with employers is that they are completely done with point solutions. And I think that in your case, I see that your sign says virtual primary care. So if you're leaning into the primary care angle, that feels less point solution-y, but employers really don't have time to, they don't even get into their own data as much as you might think. Even at Amazon, I found that to be true. And I was certainly seeking to get more information. Where are the high cost opportunities? And so one thing, super simple thing I would say is go talk to them. Go understand how they think about solutions, and what it is that they might be looking for. You might also find a niche like firefighter unions, or something else where like they have a higher prevalence of these conditions because of the work that they do. And maybe you can come in with that sort of an angle. The key is find your business advocate. The easiest thing to do is say no. So you've got to find somebody who really is a strong proponent. The other idea I would have is think about foundations and see if, I don't know if there's like a foundation for asthma and asthma research and COPD, but I would build some bridges there, because you never know. I've, for example, less condition specific, but like a women business leader. I don't know if you've ever joined women business leaders, but going to those events, sometimes half the battle is just finding somebody who knows somebody who has a special place in their heart, is a strong, has a story, is a strong believer. You need to crack that first one and then get the data, and then go from there. But like the easiest thing is to say no. And I bet more than anything, you're put into a point solution bucket.
Thank you. And the second question, if nobody else wants to jump in, is, have you found that there are certain, in switching gears now, health plans, MCOs, others, certain people who are more tolerant of risk in terms of being an early adopter for value-based care? Because fundamentally what we like to do is engage on guarantees and fees at risk. Are there
Yeah.
any specific plans in specific areas or regions that are more tolerant?
Absolutely. I would say, and there's like plans are quite different in this as well. Um, I've been educating myself a lot in this space in the last year, and I would say I didn't do myself any favors picking Minnesota. There were a lot of reasons for Minnesota, but there's this tension between, oh, there's not a lot of competition. There aren't the Chens and the Oak Streets there. Um, However, had there been, there were likely a lot of these contracts already in place, and the payers in the region would have already been through this process and had a path to risk lined out for you. So that I did not do myself any favors. It has been a very hard road to hoe. I think it's easier in MA. Are you more focused on commercial or MA or both?
Overwhelmingly, our value proposition for value-based care is MA and Medicaid, actually.
Yeah. Okay. COPD. I heard you say asthma, so
Yeah.
COPD I figured, but asthma could be across the spectrum. I would say yes, there are. Do you have a concentration of patients in a certain geography where, or are you working back from the payer? Is that your
Yeah,
question?
looking back,
Where
trying
should
to
I go?
figure out, it looks so far like we may sign a deal in Texas
Mhm.
next quarter.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering if there are other peers in specific regions we can target.
Yeah.
For example, we've heard California is a mess, so avoid it, but the concentrations of asthma and COPD are California, New York, Kentucky, Florida.
Yeah.
So there are certain states that are prime in terms of prevalence, but I'm not sure if those cross-reference with
Yeah.
early adopters.
I would also cross-reference with regulatory, like legal regulatory, because I don't know, my recollection of Texas is there's some, especially for virtual care, there's some sticky stuff there. So I actually, in choosing a geo, we had a whole rubric around like, here are all the things that we consider, and you might weigh them differently. Pardon me. But if you want to just like fill out that column of payers, like who does this well, where do we go? Certainly, I've heard like United has this pretty well like figured out. In a lot, and it's a national, the Blues are more regional. But I found it like the Blues on the data side, and so much of value-based care contracting and performance and success is around the data. So my experience, and again, I'm going to be really like this, take this really from, one geography and one person, is that the data and the attribution is favorable with a pair like a United. I don't have a ton of experience with Humana. Humana is in a lot of trouble right now. I mean, that's the other thing. Pay attention to the market dynamics. I don't know about. There's just some interesting things dynamically in the payer space. Everybody is getting hammered because cost and utilization are up. And so it is a particularly hard time, just like negotiating with payers during COVID when all they cared, with large employers during COVID, like we don't care about your health, virtual care, primary care. We need COVID solutions right now. A lot of MA plans don't care about cool, novel, and want to do new contracts. They're trying to stem the bleed. So also a bit of this is like know your audience. There is a group, so Health Evolution Summit, I sit on a round table. So it's not an expensive, I mean, it's not cheap. You pay to go to the conference, and then they have these round tables. There's a lot of folks working on value-based care for specialty. And primarily it's oncology and kidney. I haven't heard COPD, emphysema much around that table, but those kind of roundtables can be very enlightening. You can ask folks for their experience with specific payers. And then there's a guy, Rob Saunders, I think his name is, at Duke, who does healthcare policy, and he has a focus. He actually is one of the leaders of that roundtable. Sometimes academics also have good points of view on this, or take a look at Health Affairs. There's some good articles in Health Affairs. You might be able to track down some articles and then see who wrote those articles and go to those folks directly. And a lot of it is just relationships. You could also go to the consulting firms if you know anybody at a Deloitte or a McKinsey. They work for a lot of plans because nobody else can pay for them, frankly. But understanding like who are they working with, what are they seeing? Typically you want to like give get in those relationships, like what kind of insights are you sharing with them that might be interesting to their groups. But I mean, this is part of this. I will say, Sharon, like I had no idea in the CEO seat how much time I would spend on payer and trying to like crack into these relationships and get the business advocates and like just keep hammering away at this problem. It's the number one thing on my list right now, and I do it every morning. I wake up and think, what am I going to do to help us get these contracts? It's the most important thing at this stage. Oh, and by the way, we raised a Series B, so I'm at the Series B stage. Have money in the bank, but Series C is not that far away. It's 26. And the markets are still, it is still a really hard time to raise money. So I think like everybody, the theme is stay alive through 25 and get into 26. Hopefully things warm up a bit. But the number one proof point is payer contracts.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
That was great. Great question, Sharon, and thank you, Kristen, for your responses.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Helen Adioson. I'm CEO and founder of a company called Care Academy. Drew, you mentioned a couple of folks on here who sort of present as health tech. We'd love to be included in that sort of drop down next time. I think we read as ed tech. And so this question is sort of predicated on that. So our typical course and modality of business is we work with long-term care providers. So B2B Motion, SaaS company, focused on educating and training the direct care workers, folks who present as sort of allied healthcare in managing the care primarily of older adults. So at this point, we work with about 2,000 employers, over 2,000 employers throughout the US. My belief and the thesis of the company is that direct care workers actually are having health impacts. They just haven't been measured either by the industry or, long-term care sort of
Or compensated.
Or compensated. And that's essentially the thesis, right? That if you can prove out that they are having impacts, that the compensation also will follow alongside with that. So we have one of our funders in our Series B was the California Healthcare Foundation. So we're working alongside them and embarking on a longitudinal study to prove outcomes with Kaiser Permanente in California. Yes, California is scary and a mess, and we are working within California because our highest concentration of customers are in California.
Yep.
What I'm curious around, so we can sort of go the MA route, we can go sort of the Medicaid route, and we've over the course of the last couple of years, knowing that we're going to go in this direction, started talking with payers. Payers have proactively reached out, especially those who have very large MA plans like Humana, in terms of ways in which Care Academy could work with them. And I think I'm at a crossroads. It's not our core business, but it's an emergent business for 26 and 27. As we look out towards, to your point, Series C, and making a really compelling argument around sort of impact and also how we grow opportunity. We've been thinking about sort of how do we cross that tie with impacting the most people possible. Family caregivers especially is a huge concern. And then also building up the workforce and the impact of the workforce. I'd be really curious, and I'm putting you on the spot here. I think this is probably a longer response or thought process. Do you have any sense of if payers are looking at interventions such as education, right? Our belief is that if you educate that direct care worker, increase their capacity, they'll have impacts. There are a
Yeah.
lot of things that are sort of confounding around that. And so part of our process right now with Kaiser and our research is sort of what impacts are directly correlated to the direct care worker. But I'd be curious as to, it's not our core business. I'm not chasing after it right now, but we've had interest. Maybe what are the ways in which we should prep ourselves to have the discovery in terms of being part of an MA plan or value-based arrangements around, educating direct care workers or family caregivers more broadly? Do you know of any companies that are staked in those kind of discussions?
So couple folks, this guy used to be on my team at Amazon, Eric. He's a founder of Zocalo, which serves Latinx communities. But the reason I think of Eric is because he's in California. And so I will be the first to admit, I don't know. I don't have a good read on the California market, but Eric is a hell of a good guy, is doing the work there. So I would go to another founder who's in the market and having those conversations, pick his brain. He's not necessarily focused on older adults, but he knows California and he might know some other folks in the region. So I would say, like, so many of us founders want to help other founders and like not have others relive, all the hard lessons learned. So when you can find, like, the best thing I can offer you, Helen, is some ideas of people to talk to. The other woman who used to work for me, who's now a CEO, is Liz Tarullo. She's building a product to support caregivers, caregivers of patients with dementia. And she's making use of all these new codes that are coming out. And she just raised around, I think she's like looking at California, Pacific Northwest. And I'll put her name in you take a look and see if either of these folks look interesting, as those, it's kind of two different angles of what you're talking about. One is from the like caregiving getting paid, and the other is just straight up like somebody in California working with payers. So maybe try those two. Happy to reconnect and make a warm intro if either of those look interesting. And I would say, link with me on LinkedIn, and if there's somebody you need a warm intro to that I can help, I'm more than happy to do that.
Kristen, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Awesome.
Awesome. I think we're right at the end of our time, so I want to respect that for everyone. I'm sure we could talk about this for days.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you so much, Kristen. Nico, did you have anything, or Christina, that you wanted to wrap up?
No, just to say, really appreciative of your time today and helping our founders. And founders, thank you so much for being here. And I will see everyone in the new year. So happy holidays, safe travels, or stay warm, all that fun stuff. And I will see you guys in the new year. Thank you so much, Drew.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Chloe team too.